your host and moderator, Aksyon.
You saw the possibility of being corrupted.
I think not much have changed, only the time.
What is your point?
This system caters.
Yes, demand.
Yes,
Want or anything.
it basically...
Yes, we're back in our debate. This is your host and moderator, Sarmiento. As I have promised, we will now start the explosion.
I don't think there's any debate on it, as the position of the negative side would be untenable. My right to possess a firearm emanates from my right to ownership. So my right to ownership and my life to self-preservation are both enshrined in the 1987 Constitution.
You mentioned about the right to self-preservation. Are you talking about a right to carry firearms? Is
Yes,
there
sir.
such a right, let's say, enshrined in our system of in our legal system?
No, sir. The right to possess a firearm is just a corollary to my right to self-preservation. How else can I preserve my life if I cannot protect my life from destruction?
But like in the United States Supreme Court, they have it is a right of every citizen to carry a firearm. Now we have no similar provision like that in the 1987 Philippine Constitution.
Okay.
So when you are talking about this as a matter of right, where are you basing that right?
Sir, the right to self-preservation does not need to be written in any constitution because, as I've said, it is innate in any individual, and it exists independently of the constitution.
The main point that I would like to present tonight is that it is basically government's obligation to protect its citizens, not only journalists for that matter.
Mm-hmm. But we have a rising statistics of journalists being killed.
Exactly.
And will you not take that as a, let's say, as a basis of arming journalists?
I don't think so. I think the more urgent call is for government to answer, put an end to this. I think it is government's duty to run after, to arrest the perpetrators, ensure that they are...
But arresting the perpetrator would not bring back the life of the journalist.
Exactly. That would not bring back the life of journalists. But what we are talking about is giving justice to the slain journalists and putting an end to the culture of impunity that is currently pervading the country.
But
we say that the pen is mightier than the sword. But when the time comes when a gun is pointed at you, because you said something on air against the person, what do? Do you point the pen on him? I don't think so. But if a media practitioner has a gun, he can defend himself.
Throughout history, we have always been made to believe that the pen is mightier than the sword.
Yes.
And now, do I hear you saying that a gun is now mightier than the pen?
I don't, not necessarily. The gun is, the purpose of the gun is to defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Defend themselves. When a gun is pointed at you, you cannot point the pen.
If we're going to look at it as a government policy, there's a big danger that all this or most of these media men would be allowed to carry firearms, since most of them are, well, categorically saying, trigger happy, and others are ego trippers. So if we're going to allow these people to carry firearms, we are putting not only the industry but the whole society in danger.
Yes. 38 journalists killed
Yes.
in only 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that some of them are carrying guns?
I believe so. Yes.
And if we say that they're now dead, could we say that the carrying of firearms in a way helped them survive that
You know
attack?
what? If given a chance to defend themselves, they could have survived.
If we rely on firearms to defend ourselves, would that be an assurance that tomorrow, if someone attempts to kill you, you would come out alive?
On my opinion, yes. Because if he points a gun on me and I point a gun on him,
All right.
Who goes first?
I'll ask.
you were asking me.
Yeah.
You also cited an example earlier that even policemen
Yes.
and even politicians
Yes.
carrying firearms with bodyguard with them were not able to defend themselves.
Yes,
Right.
that's true.
So do you believe that even you are carrying firearms, you can't absolutely defend yourself?
Yes.
So it's not necessary to carry firearms at all.
So that means we have to disarm all our policemen, all
Not-
politicians, all
I am not
bodyguards of
addressing the
politicians,
policemen, I'm
because
addressing
they
to you.
themselves cannot even defend themselves.
No.
A lot of them get ambushed. Colonel Rodolfo Aguinaldo, a congressman. Moises Espinosa.
Yes.
Congressman Tito Espinosa.
Yes.
And the figures are rising. I don't want to end up a cold statistic, for instance.
Yes.
Situationer, you are in a secluded place. You are carrying a firearm. Somebody put a gun on you. What will you do? Will you smile?
No. I think that question.
No. Just answer the question. Just answer the question.
I don't have to answer that question because we're looking.
Just
at,
answer the- my
no,
good
we're
friend,
looking. We're
just
looking
answer the
at cold
question.
realities here.
No,
we're looking at cold
I think
realities.
I'm
No,
giving you an
we don't-
hypothetical
if-
situation
If I'm,
wherein
for
you have to
example, I'm a
decide.
journalist. I'm a journalist.
Okay.
You don't put your life at risk.
Uh-huh.
You don't deliberately put your life at risk. For instance, if you are under threat,
Yeah.
Put in that situation.
If you are put in
if
that
placed
situation,
in that
yes,
situation,
yes.
if placed in that situation,
Yes.
you defend yourself.
How will you defend yourself?
Well, I don't know, but you have to defend
No,
yourself.
how will you defend yourself?
But it's not. It's
Will
not,
you
it's
raise
not
your
a-
arms and
it's
say,
not a
"Don't
question,
shoot
no,
me"?
It's not a question. It's a question of will this stop or put an end to the killings
Will
of journalists?
having a gun
No.
stop the person
No.
by shooting you?
It will not stop the killings.
But
it will not
it
stop the
will.
killings. Because let me tell you, in the face of a determined killer, you cannot. In the face of a determined killer, a gun will not help you.
If you are talking about self-defense,
Yes, sir.
why carry a gun? Because you're talking about defense. Because a gun is not really for the purpose of defense. It's actually a weapon of offense.
Oh, no journalist practically can be saved by the gun. What I'm only proposing is that when the situation calls for it, at least we can shoot back or fight back at the perpetrator.
Be accurate. We should be balanced, and we should try to present
And you're saying that's the best protection
the both
for the
sides.
media man.
Yes. However, I think this does not in any way still guarantees that we are free from attacks. Again, in the exercise of his profession, the journalist needs to be protected by the government.
With the statistics that you have been showing us,
Exactly.
it appears that
Exactly.
the government is powerless.
Yes.
It's helpless in protecting us.
Exactly. Now the point is, civil liberties are under attack. For example, we're not only talking about journalists being killed, we're talking about activists being killed. More than 680 activists killed and still counting. Meaning there is a culture of impunity existing in the country. Civil rights are under attack, and government is doing nothing. And I think this is very alarming.
So arming
But-
people will not be the solution.
But arming people would never be the solution. For example, why stop with journalists? If activists are being killed, many activists are being killed. In fact, compared to media men or journalists, why stop with journalists? Why not allow activists to arm themselves?
So are you saying that we just arm everybody?
Exactly. Therein lies the problem. If we arm everyone, if we arm everybody, as I have said, this would lead to an escalation of violence, and this
So
would
why
not
don't we
in any way.
start with media practitioners?
Yes.
No, I think again, as I have
In
said,
fact, the Philippines has been tagged as the second most dangerous
Yes.
place for
Exactly.
journalists.
Exactly.
After Iraq.
yes,
And the proposition of Julius of arming militants
Yes.
because they are being killed is very dangerous. These
Correct.
militants are up to destabilize, if not topple the government.
No,
and
that-
then you see these militants being armed by
no,
the government.
I'm
find
not
that
saying that they
ridiculous.
arm.
Do we have statistics as to what is the real motive of many of these killings? Is it really because of the practice? Are these really related to the practice of journalism?
Yes.
Or
There are a few.
Yes.
No, most of
I-
most
no.
of most of the
Most.
situations, yes.
I think there are some, of course, which is why
No,
we go,
don't
we
say
go
some.
back.
Most of it.
No,
most
no,
of it.
no. There are,
Thank you very much, people of Bacolod and people of Negros Occidental. This is iDebate, and this is your host and moderator, Atty. Sarmiento. See you again next week for another episode, for another round of exciting debate, only here in the Sunshine Channel, SkyCable Channel 14. Thank you very much.
Time to play the game.